The History of Canada, Part 1, Indigenous Beginnings to Confederation in 1867. The first people in Canada were the Indigenous people. They include the Inuit in northern Canada and the First Nations in the rest of Canada. Indigenous people are not all the same. As you can see on this colorful map, there are many different Indigenous groups and languages in North America. Canada was a multicultural land even back then. How did Indigenous people come to Canada? Thousands of years ago, Asia and North America were connected. So, people from Asia came to Canada and the rest of North America this way. But Indigenous people have a different story. In one legend, the world was covered in water. So, animals built North America on the back of a turtle. Many Indigenous people still call North America Turtle Island. Many things we see and use in Canada today are from Indigenous culture. For example, totem poles, canoes, kayaks, igloos, toboggans, snowshoes, maple syrup, lacrosse, Canada's national summer sport, dream catchers, and inuksuks. The first Europeans to come to Canada were the Vikings. The Vikings were from Scandinavia in northern Europe. 1,000 years ago, they went to Newfoundland and called it Vinland. Then, they left forever. You can still see the Viking village in Newfoundland today because it's a museum. John Cabot was the next European to go to Canada in the 1400s. He came from England. He went to Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. Cabot saw white fish called cod in the Atlantic Ocean near Canada. These fish were very easy to catch because there were so many of them. Cabot went back to England and told people about the cod. After that, European fishermen went to Canada to catch them. Cod is still a popular fish in Canada today. It's often used to make fish and chips. In the 1500s, Jacques Cartier came to Canada from France. He went farther into Canada. He went to the St. Lawrence River and Quebec. Cartier met Indigenous people in Quebec, but they had trouble understanding each other because they spoke different languages. Cartier asked what this land was called. The Indigenous people told him the name of their small village, Kanata. Cartier made a mistake and thought Kanata was the name of the whole country. This is how Canada got its name. In the 1600s, Samuel de Champlain, another man from France, founded Quebec City, now the capital of Quebec. It's a beautiful old European city and a popular tourist attraction today. Other French people came to Quebec to farm, hunt, and do other work. At this time, Canada was called New France. This is why many people in Quebec and other parts of Canada speak French. Europeans and Indigenous people traded things like tools, weapons, food, jewelry, clothes, and other household things. Life in early Canada was difficult. The winters were very long and cold, and most of the land was covered in forest. Some Indigenous people helped Europeans and taught them how to live in Canada. Europeans weren't always nice to Indigenous people in return. They built homes and cities on Indigenous lands. They didn't always ask if they could do this. And they didn't always pay for the land. This is one reason why Indigenous people protest against the Canadian government today. People came to Canada from both France and England to hunt beavers. They often worked with Indigenous people. It was good money at the time because hats made of beaver fur were very popular in Europe. Today, the beaver is an important symbol of Canada. You can find a beaver on the back of the Canadian nickel. The biggest beaver fur company was English. It was called the Hudson's Bay Company. It later became a department store with locations across Canada. For hundreds of years, it was the oldest company in Canada. Sometimes, French fur traders married First Nations women. This created a new culture called the Métis. In the 1700s, England and France fought over land in Canada. England made many French people living in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island leave Canada. But there are still French-speaking communities in these provinces today. Eventually, England won the war and became the leader of Canada. New France became British North America. Many more people from England came to Canada. This is why most people in Canada speak English. It's also why Canada is connected to England and its kings and queens. But French people living in Quebec were allowed to stay and keep their language, culture, religion, and law. This is why Canada has two official languages, English and French. Later, England divided Canada into two parts, Upper Canada in English-speaking Ontario and Lower Canada in French-speaking Quebec. England also started a government in Canada. In the 1800s, England and Canada were in a war with the U.S. called the War of 1812. The U.S. wanted to take over Canada, but England and Canada fought back. For example, Canadian Laura Secord found out that the Americans were planning a surprise attack against Canada. She ran 32 kilometers to tell the Canadian Army. Laura Secord was a Canadian hero. She is on Canadian stamps. There is also a Canadian chocolate company named after her. Another Canadian hero in the War of 1812 was First Nations Chief Tecumseh. He wanted to protect First Nations land from the U.S. He was a good warrior because he scared the Americans. In the end, Canada burned down the American White House and won the War of 1812. This is why Canada and the U.S. are separate countries. But a few people were not happy about the English leaders in Canada. They wanted Canada to separate from England, be more like the U.S., or even become part of the U.S. They fought against England. They lost, but England made some changes to the government. First, Upper Canada and Lower Canada joined to become the Province of Canada. Second, Canadians could vote for their leaders, and these leaders had more power. Louis Hippolyte Lafontaine was Canada's first elected leader. Today in Canada, we still vote for our leaders. This is called democracy. On July 1st, 1867, Canada became an independent country with 4 provinces: Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. Other provinces and territories followed. Today, we celebrate Canada Day every year on July 1st. At the time, Queen Victoria was the leader of England. She allowed Canada to become an independent country. She also chose Ottawa as the capital of Canada. Queen Victoria's birthday is on May 24th. This is why we celebrate Victoria Day every year on the Monday on or before May 24th. Sir John A. Macdonald was the first Prime Minister of Canada. He was not even born in Canada or England. He was a Scottish immigrant. Today, you can see Sir John A. Macdonald on some Canadian $10 bills. French and English people were not the only ones coming to Canada at this time. For example, many people from Ireland and other European countries immigrated to Canada for a better life. Americans who were loyal to England escaped the U.S. and came to Canada after the American War of Independence. Some American First Nations groups were also loyal to England. They moved to Canada as well. Slavery was illegal in Canada before it was illegal in the U.S. For this reason, many Black American slaves escaped to Canada. Mary Ann Shadd was a Black Canadian. She was against slavery and wrote about it a lot. She helped slaves escape the U.S. and come to Canada. As you can see, Canada is and always has been a diverse and multicultural place. How much do you remember? Look at the pictures. Read the key words. Say what you remember about Canadian history.